Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I want to talk about rebuilding your life because now you've been betrayed. That relationship is completely different. It might feel even dead in your eyes. And so now you have to rebuild your life. You've got two options with betrayal. You either kind of take them back and hopefully they apologize, say they're sorry and won't do it again, and actually you start again. And you have to now rebuild that relationship because for you it's completely different. It won't be so different for them because you've still been standing there being the same person, but for you, it's like this person's a stranger and I don't know you, and I'm not sure whether I trust you ever again. The other one is when you decide to separate, or you're just not going to want to do it again with them, and then you don't have them in your life. And as we said, then there's the loss of the relationship, and you also here in this situation need to rebuild your life. Either way, you have to rebuild your life. Unfortunately, you can't go back and have and get what you used to have. It does not exist anymore because now that they've broken your trust and betrayed you, you don't trust them at all, and that's fair enough. The life you had before is now gone. This is really, really sad when you realize that. It's like you look back and you look at it and you think, wow, I can't have that again. I don't have that now. And then it brings up a lot of, as we said before, fear and anxiety and confusion in you. Rebuilding means that we start again. In both cases, you'll be starting again. If you decided to separate from them completely and you don't want to be with them anymore, you'll have to rebuild it on a daily level. If they're your partner and or close friend, family, or the business, and you've decided to call it quits and you're not going to be with them anymore because you don't want to be with someone who has betrayed you, and you probably have an instinct that this might not have been the first betrayal and there was probably something before this, and also the instinct that you don't think this particular personality type that you're with is going to stop doing it because perhaps they are a compulsive liar, perhaps they've been lying to you in lots of other little small ways, but they're still lies and you can't trust them because they're untrustworthy. The way to do this in both cases, in that one and even when you're trying to start again with them, is that you have to rebuild the trust. And that's going to take time. And you rebuild the boundaries that you're going to have up now and work on all your stuff and try to let it go. Try eventually to forgive them and to move on. But you have to rebuild it. You can't go straight back into it because now it's kind of you don't fit. It's like you don't fit with them and in a way they don't fit with you. In the first one, when you now don't have them in your life, you have to rebuild it in the sense of making activities, arrangements, and putting different things in your life. Now, you might end up being quite alone initially because if this person has been very close to you, you would have spent many hours in a week on the telephone with them, socializing, etc. And now that isn't happening, so you're going to be quite lonely. So, with the rebuilding of the completely broken one, you will be lonely. And that's when you're going to have to accept that you're going to be on your own. It's going to be lonely. You're not going to have that person there to talk to spend time with, to go out with, to confide in, and to love. Because now you actually don't have somebody to love. That person's gone. You might still love them, but you don't have any way to express your love to them anymore because you've decided that this is a basically unhealthy relationship for you and it's not going to work long term. There will be all the feelings that you'll have to deal with. And in rebuilding, as we release them, we can build up our lives more easily. If you are well enough emotionally and mentally and psychologically to go back to work or any volunteer work that you did before you work in those capacities, try to go back as much as you can. Go back part-time initially if you can't cope and then start to go back full-time. Work's going to be quite good for you right now because it puts your head somewhere else and you at least you feel some sort of that you produced something or you made something for the day. It's going to be in the quiet social hours that you'll probably find it's hardest, and you need to start filling these up with other people that you know, organise if you're well enough mentally, have people emotionally, have people over, have them over, have pizza nights, text some people, go out and have a coffee, try and get some social contact back. And also, if it's been with your partner, you might want to go and spend now more time with your family. They'll probably be there trying to support you. So if you go and have meals over there or even sleep over some nights, it's okay. You're actually going through grief. So you would do this if your partner actually had died. And for you, they actually have died. Try to rebuild it as much as you can. If you need to go into therapy or get some counselling and go quite often initially, that's also going to help to fill up your time and do that. And then the other thing is to rearrange where you're living. So if you were living with your partner and you've moved out, you'll be rearranging anyhow. Don't bring out the boxes that are going to upset you of all the photos of the holidays. Don't put photos of the person you're around. It's going to disturb you. Just put them in a box and leave them at someone else's house or put them in the shed. And if you are now in the situation when, say, you're in the house and they've left, then redo the house. Get rid of all their stuff and put it in a box. Get rid of all the stuff that reminded you of them, put it in a box, and change the house around, move the paintings around, move the furniture around. Some people actually, in a partnership, they go and buy a new bed and they buy a new bed linen, and if you can afford to do that, that's not such a bad idea. You might actually want to sleep in another room for a while, so set up the spare room and you might want to sleep there. Do everything that is rebuilding and to change. If there are hobbies and activities that you were doing more before and you haven't done them as much, go back to them. So if you used to paint, get your paints out. If you used to go to yoga, go to yoga. Rebuilding means putting new things in place. That's what rebuilding is. You can't put the old things in place, but you can put new things in place. It's been a betrayal of a partner. Now you're going to actually be doing things as a single person again. Whether you go online dating is really up to you. You're probably not going to be too good a partner as a date going out with you because you're going to be so messed up and upset. But if you think you can do it and you can go online dating, it will be good for your self-esteem, if nothing else. And it also is another activity, so you can pursue that if you want to. If there's been divide in the family, try and rebuild the part of the family that's working. And sometimes it's just a good idea not to discuss the big issue of the betrayal constantly. Maybe talk about it a bit, but try and rebuild that relationship so it doesn't actually include the other people or persons. And that goes for your friendship group. So if you've had some betrayal with a friend and they've got friends who are mutual friends with you, still go and see the mutual friends and don't give that up. Rebuild it just with those other people. With the business, rebuilding, if you've split, will be starting a new business, working out all the money, getting legal advice, obviously, and rebuilding it in a different way. So you might be able to take part of the business and actually salvage it and rebuild it, or you might decide that you're going to just let it die natural death and now you're going to do a business and start a business for yourself. And that might be very good for you because you'll be busy working at beginning your new business, or maybe you always wanted to go back to uni now, so you get yourself a part-time job and then you go back and study. To rebuild is a healthy thing to do after betrayal, and you can do rebuilding even when you're upset. You're going to be really upset, and you're going to be upset for months and maybe years. You might as well do something productive with the other part of your life. This is a more physical thing, the rebuilding. You're also rebuilding your emotional life because you're letting go of your emotions, you're getting counselling or help, and you're rebuilding your mental and your emotional and your psychological well-being. You're trying to make that healthier, which is about putting happy things in your life. Try to make yourself happy, do things that make you happy. Try and find lots of what I call the happy place. Our happy place is where we are, and it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. When we're in that place, we can be actually happy. It's devastating being betrayed by somebody that you love, and it cuts and it hurts, and it's like someone, as I said before, has put a knife in your heart, but you can recover. You won't recover as quickly if you don't rebuild. If you just sit in the gloom and stay there and don't try and move forward, it will stop you from healing in some ways. But having said that, if you're not quite ready and you need to just be like that for a few months, then you have to do what's right for you. I did little rebuilds, like they were smaller. Mine was a little bit more complicated because at the same time as a person, I found out about the affair, then they were dying of a terminal illness and I had to take care of them. So mine was a little bit more messy. So I couldn't really deal with what had happened with the betrayal because I had the terminal illness, the person's dying in front of my eyes. Actually, I had to do it afterwards. So I had the death and then I had to do the betrayal stuff and the affair after the person had died. You might not have that scenario, but then a lot of people do have that scenario. And I tell you, it's a really horrible scenario. It's very difficult. But I had to rebuild it on 2 levels. And I think you can do this. I really think you can. I've done it, and I think you can do it. You have to rebuild, and you have to learn to rebuild trust in people. And it might be a good idea for you to think about or make a list of the people you actually do trust and be more with those people. Because the more that you are with people that you do trust, the quicker it will build up the fact that there are people who are trustworthy and there's other people. And to be with people who are trustworthy is going to be good for you. So I highly suggest you start rebuilding your life either way, whether you stay with them and start to rebuild the life with the 2 of you together, or if you're a family or friends or business, that you start again and try and rebuild it. Or you make the choice not to be with the other person and then you start to rebuild your single relationship because you're no longer with that person. In some ways, it can be easier too. If you've got friends that you didn't mutually get on well with, now you can be with those people more. If there were family problems, your partner and the family didn't quite get on, then you don't have to worry about that anymore. It can sometimes actually be easier. And with the business part, you might be able to be the boss now or actually just go and work for someone for a while, build it in that way. To give yourself some time to rebalance, just go and work, contract out in the same field you're in, perhaps just with somebody else. And then once you get some money behind you and you stabilise, you can start another business if you want to. Rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. That's what I say. And that's one of the best ways that you can survive and come out of betrayal a winner rather than come out of the betrayal bitter and twisted. As they say, these things can either make you bitter or better and actually not be completely wrecked by what they did and come out on top. Okay, I'm sending you lots of love and light, and I hope that you can start thinking in this way to rebuild. Do a little steps, one step at a time, something just very small, like maybe change one room around, or as I said, go back to yoga again, or spend more time now with your family and your friends now that your relationship's broken down. Go on a holiday perhaps, go somewhere you've always wanted to go. Go and buy yourself that new plasma TV if you want it. Whatever makes you happy. This is what you got to do. You've got to find whatever makes you happy. So good luck with your rebuilder, and I'll talk to you soon.